Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Good morning. Hey, Casey. We don't usually see you in book club. Well, hello. Are you coming to class tonight? Hey, Becca. Hey, Cindy. Morning, everybody. It is time for coffee. We must have the coffee. She can't live without it. Literally can't live without it. So that's okay. We just, make it. I think this weekend I'm going to have to go get more pods because we are getting a little low. Just a little smidgety low. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Asa. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna do this one first. Mom, how do you feel about the fact that everyone calls you Dr. P in book club? Hey, Avery. I don't know if anybody needs to catch up, but the YouTube has all of the currently read chapters like through yesterday up, so if anyone was missing anything, hey Cass, they're all there, guys. I'm actually up to date on uploading, so just letting you know that is a thing. They call me that at work too. Oh, okay, well there you go. So I guess it's everywhere. Oh, that's funny. That's pretty funny, Mom. Keep forgetting to do the things. Come in, are here. Hello, welcome. Fresh creamers and milk today. Yes, it's true. Had to open it. That's right. Did you ever figure out what was wrong with YouTube? No. I mean, sorry, that came out really, really mean. Sorry, Avery. Avery was asking very nicely, and I responded meanly like I was talking to YouTube. We never figured out what the issue was, but I did get them uploaded. So, I don't know what the problem was, but I know it's not there anymore. So that's good. But what the issue was, who's to say? Who's to say? Who's ever to say? But I mean, they're there now. Good morning, Ray. We have class tonight, you guys. Don't forget to get your supplies. We are making thick and glossy slime this evening. It just hated you for a couple of days and then liked you again. I know. It's really finicky. Really finicky. Hey Roxy, how is your daughter's procedure going? Oh wait, what time is the class? Yeah, probably 4:30, but I actually have to check to see. I'm not 100% sure. Probably 4:30. That's usually when people. We might have voted on 5 though. I have to check. 4 or 5, something like that. Somewhere in that range. Somewhere in the range of 96,000. Hey Liz. Hello everybody. Recovery is good. That's excellent. We love to see someone in recovery. Very, very good. What is the show you want? I don't want to say it on here, Liz. I'll tell you privately. Hey, Sly. Okay, I'll admit it. I want to watch the Gypsy Rose show. I know it's bad. I know how bad it is, but I need to know. I need to know. But I don't want to give her more money, so I need to know. Now, if TikTok would let you go live on your book account, I might have figured that out, Avery. We'll find out. It's pretty bad, Liz. It's pretty bad. But I do want to watch it with Kim K. No, Gypsy Rose. Gypsy Rose. No, I don't watch Kim K. I did, Avery, and I have to know everything now. I have to know. I have to know what is going on in this crazy woman's life, right? Is no one else morbidly curious? Everyone's morbidly curious, so there wouldn't be so many videos about it. But like, there's some cray-cray happening up in there. The timeline, the math is not mathing, and I have to know. Kim is interviewing her. Kim is interviewing Gypsy Rose? When? Why? How? There's nothing wrong with that. At least you know what she's done is wrong, and you're curious. I am. I'm so curious. I'm just morbidly curious. I was so shocked I couldn't. I know, Avery. I know. The whole thing is a mess. I know. She did yesterday, Mom? Mom, why do you know that? My mom's obsessed with Kim Kardashian, you guys. That's why she knows. Okay, thank you, Liz. It's a lot of cray happening over there. And the craziest part of the whole thing is that she lives in a state with really weird mandates. So like, even though her baby is this Ken guy's baby, supposedly, I've never seen a Kardashian show. Yeah, I know, but you're like obsessed with Kim Kardashian. You talk about her all the time. You guys, my mom in her sister, so my mom has two sisters, so there's 3 girls all together, and my mom kind of like is the Kim of the group, if that, gives her. I know the ex-husband has to be on the birth certificate. I know! He has to be on the birth certificate because they have wackadoodle laws over there. And because she's a felon and so is her current boyfriend, she can't live with him even though he's the father of her child. She's not allowed to live with him because they're both felons on parole. Insanity. The insanity is off the charts, you guys. It's absolutely off the charts. I have to know. I have to watch it. Honestly, crazy. You should have kept this covered. She really should have. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. I mean, she really should have kept it on the DL. And more than that, she should have at least just kept it for a couple, like who announces a pregnancy that publicly that early on? Like, is that not weird to anyone else? What is going on with my hair, do we think? How long will they be on parole? At least another 11 months, I heard. So the baby will be born and they can't live together. So I'm just saying it's all weird. Her divorce isn't final. 11 weeks is pretty early to be announcing to that many public people. I guess that's true, Becca. I guess that's true. I don't know. I'm assuming the baby can't be taken from her since she's out. The baby won't be taken from her. The whole situation's so crazy. I feel like it just gets crazier. I know, that's why I have to watch the show, Avery. That's why I need it. Everything just keeps snowballing into insanity. It's wild. It's just wild, you guys. I'm like, every day a new thing comes out in my brain. Hey, Jen, is just like, oh, for sure, Roxy. And the other thing is, like, if you know that kind of mental illness runs in your family, would you risk having a baby? Like, would you do that? I don't know if I would. Truth is totally stranger than fiction. Yes. So we can watch it together. We can watch it together. Usually I just put things like that on my ears while I'm making slime. I don't usually actually sit and watch them, but that might be funny. The baby is going to have a very hard life. That's a good idea, Liz. You probably should. I mean, it's just crazy. It's all crazy. So anyway, I just want to know. I just want to know what's happening. That's all. And I know that it's wrong. I know I'm wrong for wanting this, but I admit it. I admit my faults, okay? I'm curious. I am totally morbidly curious, and I have to know. I have to know. Wiping my tiny tears. So anyway, good morning, everybody. How are you all? Oh, I subscribed to the Patreon and watch after dark. Oh, yay, that's so exciting. We'll have another one next week. I didn't do that, Casey. I definitely did do that. The responsibility of having kids is a lot, and some people just shouldn't. I know. No, I agree with you, Jen. I agree. It is soap opera of our age. You're right. Yeah. Hey, Mary. I agree. I think that I actually have always been, and this is a bit extreme, but I have always been of the mind that there should be a test, that you should have to pass a test to be able to have children. That is my belief. Yeah. I think there should be rules. I think you should be able to prove basic skills, a whole bunch of things. Yeah, I know it's extreme, but I'm extreme. You know, that's one of the things, like people who walk out of the hospital with a newborn and have never changed a diaper before. Yeah, right? No, I'm not talking about you, Mary. I'm talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. You know, I mean, I feel like there are certain things they should force you to have to learn before you're allowed to have an infant just handed over to you. I don't know. But also, like, forget, she might have all this, but like, we know, like, okay, this is a really small thing, but I saw a video this morning that I was like, oh, like, it literally made me gasp, because someone was like, hey, so you know what's really funny about the fact that Gypsy's lying about how far along she is in her pregnancy? And they leave a pause for all of us to go, what? What's weird about that? She said, you know who else lied about their kid's age? And I was like, it's so true. It's so true. You know, her mom was all about that life. And it's clearly like, I know, Naisa, I know. The whole thing is off the rocker. I don't know what to do. But I just can't. It's so much. It's so much. How do you even... I don't know. I don't know. It's truly mind-boggling. Mom, I hear what you're saying, where you're saying when you have a kid, you become less selfish. But do you know Gypsy Rose's story and her mom? Her mom clearly did not become less selfish as she had her. That's not... Really, Jen? Yeah, well, Gypsy Rose's mom did not become less selfish when she had a child. That is for darn sure. But, like, Munchausen by proxy is, you know, you're... It's not going well up here for those people. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good for them. And I don't know what Gypsy has, but yeah. Who is Steve? I don't know who Steve is, right? My sister pretended to have cancer for 2 years. Dude, I'm not gonna say who, Jen, but there is someone else in our community who you know, whose sister also did that to them. The doctor should have seen that earlier. They absolutely should have seen it. Steve is Blue's best friend. Steve is Blue's best friend. Brian is right. Steve is Blue's from Blue's Clues' his best friend. He's right. Brian's absolutely right. Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild up in here. The whole thing is crazy. Oh, I know, Emma. I know. We're just chit-chatting for a minute. Yeah. Yeah, Jen, the person themselves also does. And their sister lied about it during the time when they also had it. Can you believe that? Insanity. I know. Someone who has a sibling who has cancer and then pretends to have cancer also to get sympathy, that's insane. That's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you need to be put away. Oh, I didn't know that it wasn't real. What? What? Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You can't do stuff like that, you guys. I mean, no, obviously none of you had. It is, Jen. It is. When she told me this, I was like, babes, you can't talk to this person anymore. You have to just deal with your treatment and be healthy. You can't do this. You just can't. Like, it's too much. It's too much. It is attention seeking, but like in the worst way. I mean, like, Okay, do any of you guys follow Chris Olsen on here on TikTok? Like, he's been making a couple of videos over the last couple of days, which I actually really appreciate, because people tend to call him annoying, and that's fine. You can think he's annoying, but if you think he's annoying, just keep scrolling, right? I think he's funny, so I follow him, you know, but he's not for everyone. He's not everyone's flavor. So when everyone starts calling him annoying, he was like, being this annoying made me a millionaire, so keep scrolling if you don't like it. And that I support. Being attention seeking in a harmless way, fine, live your best life, go do whatever you want. But like, oh, that's fair, Jen. That's completely different. She doesn't have that situation, so it's easier for her to, you know what I mean? Like, I support people doing things that are harmless or whatever, but those things are not harmless, you know? Oh my gosh, do you guys want to hear something so great that I have decided? So a couple of days ago, so my siblings also write things. They're not like, they haven't like written full books, but they've also written their whole lives. And my brother calls me the other day, which is pretty rare because he doesn't usually call people on the telephone except for our mother, but he called me on the telephone and I was like, hello? And he's like, I decided to finally write my book. And I was like, do it. And he sent me the first chapter and it's actually very good. It's very good. And I was like, oh, this is very good. You have to finish it now. So I'm so proud of him. And then I texted my sister because I'm a snitch and I told her that my brother's writing a book. And I was like, now you have to write a book so that we can go on a sibling tour and do a book tour together of all our books. And she was like, all right, fine. I know, I'm so proud of him that he's actually like a good little writer. I say little, but he's 32 almost. Well, 31 and a half, whatever. He's not actually little anymore, but he's still little in my heart. Anyway, they write different stuff than I do because I'm a snitch. That's what he calls us, Priscilla. He calls us snitches because we talk to each other. But like, I was telling her good things. I was like, guess what? Ben's a good writer. Like, I mean, that's not a mean thing to say to your sibling. It's a nice thing. I was like, you should be proud. He's good. Meh. I feel like if I was saying something bad, it would be gossip. But if you're saying something good, you just get to be a nice sister, right? Show the picture of you holding him. I don't know if there's a way to do that on here. It is a very cute picture though. My mom just sent a picture to me. Hold on, let me see if I can do it. If I can do it, I will. Let's see. Stickers. Oh yeah, maybe I can. Text stickers. No, not that. My mom sent me a picture from the day he was born the other day. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. I have so many slime photos in here, it might be hard to find. I saved it though. Slime, 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 Zoe, slime. When did you send it, Mom? Did you send it before Zoe's birthday party? Oh, here it is. I found it, you guys. This is me holding my brother on the day he was born. He's so little. And that's me. No, I picked the right pic. This is me when he was born, and this is him. Yeah. So there it is. That's me holding this tiny little nugget who is now a 31-year-old. Look at those little fingies. So tiny. I was missing a tooth, clearly, but that's okay. I was the age to be missing a tooth. What's this haircut? Who's to say? Whatever. Anyway. Yes, we had a good go of it. Catherine did not come to the hospital. She had to go to school because they were giving out Skittles. He's never let her live that down. I don't think he ever will. Anyway, those are all my updates for the morning. Shall we read? I think Emma is only here to hear the book, so we better get into it before we lose Emma. Okay. Chapter 13, The Dragon Keys. Here we go. She laughed, it's okay. Skittles over meeting baby brother perfection. I mean, to be fair, Sloth, she was 4, so priorities are a little different when you're 4 than, you know, when you're 8, which I was, but she was adamant. She had to go to school that day. And my aunt, who was at the house with us while Mom and their dad were at the hospital, my aunt was like, I could buy you a bag of Skittles. And Catherine was like, no, they're giving us Skittles. And my aunt was like, okay, well, I could still buy you Skittles. And she just like, they were just like having 2 different conversations. It just was not, it was not landing because a 4-year-old and
It just, you know. Anyway, my brother occasionally will send Catherine Skittles on his own birthday because it's pretty funny. Anyway, chapter 13, The Dragon Keys. Bristol was awoken by a pleasant tingling sensation on her right wrist. When her eyes slowly opened, she had no idea where or how she had gotten there. The first thing she noticed was a roof made of large leaves above her. The second was that she was lying in a green hammock. And the third was that her right wrist was tingling because it was on fire. The alarming sight made Bristol rapidly sit up, and the hammock swayed beneath her. She tried to put out the flames by rubbing her wrist on the leg of her pantsuit, but they wouldn't extinguish. As she frantically patted her wrist, Bristol realized that she was hurting herself more than the fire was. On the contrary, the flames were making her injured wrist feel better. Hey, guys, do we know anyone else who heals things with flames? Remember? I bet I know who's coming. And strangely, instead of bright yellow or orange, the fire was a soft rosy color, like the skin of a peach. Bristol took a look around to discover that she was in a hut. It was one large room, and every inch of it was made up entirely of palm trees. From leaves making up the thatch roof to the floor tiled with the coconut shells, Lucy, Gobzella, Prince Elrond, Butternut, and Spanky were all sleeping in other hammocks beside her, and different parts of their bodies had been set ablaze with the same mysterious flames. Hiya! The voice made Bristol jump, and she almost fell out of the hammock. She looked up and saw a young man standing over her. Oh, that was unexpected. This is not what I thought was going to happen here, you guys. Okay, weird. She looked up and saw a young man standing over her. He was tall and muscular and looked like he was about 16 years old. His head was shaved and he had thick, dark eyebrows and bright brown eyes. The young man also had a friendly smile and wore spiked armor the color of charcoal. Bristol thought that his wardrobe looked familiar, but couldn't remember where she had seen it before. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I was just watching you sleep, he said. Excuse me? Bristol asked, her eyes widening. The man cringed at his choice of words. I mean, because I'm supposed to be watching you sleep, no, not because I wanted to. Ugh, he said with a nervous laugh. Don't get me wrong, you're pretty. You're actually very, very pretty. I'm sure a lot of boys would want to watch you sleep. Oh gosh, no, wait, that's not okay. Not that. That actually sounded really creepy. What I'm trying to say is that I'm not creepy. I was just doing my job. If Bristol wasn't so concerned, she would have found his awkwardness kind of charming. Who are you? She asked. Apologies, I should have started with that, he said. My name's Ryder. What's yours? Bristol found it refreshing not to be recognized, but she was still cautious of this young man. I'm Bristol, she said. Why is it your job to watch me sleep? Oh, to make sure the fire's working, Ryder said, and he pointed to the flames on her wrist. You guys were really banged up after I saved you. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use the word save. That implies that I think you aren't capable of taking care of yourself. I'm sure you are capable of whatever you set your mind to. I'm not one of those men. I have a lot of respect for females. Females? Seriously, Ryder? Ugh, sorry. I'm not sure why I said females. What I meant to say was women, and the word I meant to use earlier was help. You were pretty banged up after I helped you, and I brought you here. What is this place? Bristol asked. You're in the healing hut, he said. Thankfully, you and your friends' injuries weren't too severe. I've seen the Boulder Bandits do way worse to other castaways. Bristol looked at him like he was speaking a different language. Boulder Bandits? She asked. Ryder was surprised she didn't remember. Well, yeah, that's what we call the reptiles that were attacking you on the beach, he said. The outer islands are infested with them. It's a good thing I spotted your group when I did, otherwise you probably would have been eaten. Suddenly, the memories of the beach flashed before Bristol's eyes, and she remembered the carriage exploding above her. She remembered running from the massive reptiles, and she remembered where she had seen this unique armor before. Bristol hopped out of the hammock in fright and slowly backed away from him. You were riding a dragon, she exclaimed. Yeah, that was me, he said. Ryder was staring at her like it was a trick question when she asked, why were you riding the dragon? Because she's easier to get around on? Is that supposed to be a joke? No. Then why are you acting like that's normal? Riding a dragon is not normal. Ryder shrugged. For me it is, he said. Oh, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. You just got here, and you're probably so confused. Not that it's your fault. How could you not be confused? No, that's definitely my fault. I've lived here my entire life, so sometimes I forget to fill people in. I'm guessing you and your friends survived a shipwreck? Yeah? Bristol lied. Yeah, we survived a shipwreck. I figured. That's usually the case when people wash ashore, Ryder said. Well, these islands are an animal sanctuary for endangered creatures. Welcome to the Dragon Keys. Morning, Brittany. The young man posed with his arms out and quickly lowered them when he realized how strange he looked. Ryder was right about one thing. Bristol was very confused. Dr. States had never mentioned anything about an animal sanctuary being near the Temple of Knowledge. What kind of animal sanctuary is this? She asked. Well, it's for dragons, Ryder said, hence the name. Bristol was shocked. You mean there's more than one dragon here? Instead of giving her a verbal answer, Ryder took Bristol by the good hand and led her to the window. He opened the leafy curtains and Bristol's mouth dropped open. The healing hut was one of many buildings around the top of an active volcano. From the hut, Bristol had a spectacular view of all the islands in the Keys, and a massive pool of magma was boiling inside the volcano below them. Lava poured down the side of the volcano and moved through the island like a bright red river. Even more shocking than the volcano, as Bristol's eyes followed the river across the island, she saw dragons everywhere she looked. The creatures were all different shapes and sizes with different colors and features. Some looked just like the dragon she'd seen on the beach with enormous wings and long tails. Others were short and stout and walked on 4 legs and had no wings at all. Most of the creatures were covered in scales, but others were furry and covered in feathers. The dragons soared around one another in the sky, and they grazed and wrestled in fields, and Bristol spotted a few bathing and swimming in the river of lava. I can't believe this, Bristol said. I thought dragons were extinct. They were almost hunted into extinction, Ryder said. My ancestors rounded up the survivors and brought them to this island to keep them safe. My family's been taking care of them ever since. We call ourselves caretakers. How many types of dragons are there? She asked. Well, we have over 50 species here in the Keys, Ryder was excited to share. You see that fat, short one with the scales like tree bark? That's tree chomper. They live off petrified wood and build nests out of logs. Do you see the small flock of ones with yellow wings? Those are smoke angels. They eat clouds, and their bodies are so light that they spend their whole lives in the sky. See the dragon swimming in the river? That one looks like a glowing snake. Yeah, those are lava lingers, and they survive by absorbing heat from the magma. And those hairy ones with the webbed feet, those are fish hoarders. They eat seaweed and they burrow into the shore. Are they dangerous? Bristol asked. I don't know. Dragons are just like people. They can be nice or aggressive, Ryder said. It all depends on how they're raised. A lot of people don't know this, but dragons are a subservient species. That means they need masters to function properly. After their eggs hatch, the dragons imprint on the very first person they see. And if a dragon's brought up by a decent person, well, then it'll grow up to be gentle. But if someone cruel or corrupt gets their hands on a dragon, well, that can be quite hostile. In addition to the dragons Ryder had pointed out, Bristol saw several people among the creatures. They wore spiked armor as they walked around the island, carefully observing the creatures and inspecting their habits. Are all these people in your family? Bristol asked. Most of them, but some of them are castaways like you and your friends, Ryder said. It's our policy to help castaways get back home, but a lot of them decide they just want to stay. All it takes is an introduction to a dragon and boom, they're hooked for life. Bristol giggled as she watched some of the caretakers teaching the dragons to sit and roll over in exchange for treats. I never thought that dragons could be so friendly, she said. Oh yeah, well some dragons are more friendly than others. Some are downright helpful, Ryder said. Do you see the dragon sitting in the nest above the volcano? One with the white shiny scales and the blue eyes? Yeah, that's a great albino dragon. They breathe fire that restores instead of destroys. And it's great for fixing damaged property or, healing wounds. Bristol glanced down at the flames burning on her wrist. Knowing that they came from a dragon made them even more wondrous than before. She studied them and then they suddenly disappeared. Wait, what just happened? Why did the fire stop? She asked. Oh, that means that your wrist is done healing, he said. Ryder glanced around the healing hut and saw the flames on Lucy, Gobzella, Prince Elrond, Butternut, and Spanky were all still burning strong. The delegates were still out cold, snoring peacefully in their hammocks. Looks like your friends have a while to go before they're recovered, he said. Would you like to take a tour of the island while we wait for them to heal? Ryder's enthusiasm was contagious, and Bristol couldn't resist. Besides, she figured a tour was the perfect way to scout the island for the Temple of Knowledge. Absolutely, she said. Ryder smiled and led Bristol outside the healing hut to the edge of the volcano. He whistled with his fingers, and a few moments later, a dragon Bristol had encountered on the beach swooped down from the sky and landed in front of them. Even though Ryder had assured Bristol that dragons were friendly, the giant beast still made her a little uneasy. This is Kitty, Ryder said. She's a fire-breathing horned scarlet. They used to have the highest population until dragons were hunted, but don't worry, Kitty's harmless. I raised her myself. Your dragon is named Kitty? She asked. Ryder shrugged. Yeah, I always wanted a cat, but they never last very long on the island, for like obvious reasons, he said. And then he turned to the dragon. Kitty, can you show us your pretty smile? Ryder spoke to the dragon in a high-pitched voice like she was a baby. The creature opened its massive mouth and exposed hundreds of sharp teeth. If the dragon's smile was supposed to make Bristol a little more comfortable, it wasn't working. Good girl, Kitty, Ryder said. What a pretty dragon. Who's a pretty dragon? The dragon panted and wagged her tail like a happy dog, and then rolled onto her back so that Ryder could scratch her tummy. You want to give the nice lady a tour? Do you want to give the nice lady a tour? He asked. The dragon was thrilled by the idea and eagerly licked his face with her forked tongue. Hold on. You're gonna give me a tour on Kitty? Bristol asked. Yeah, of course. How else would we get around? Is walking an option? We'll cover more ground if we ride Kitty, Ryder said. You're perfectly safe. She's the best flyer in the Keys. The dragon raised her head and posed regally. Bristol took a step back. I promise it'll be a tour you'll never forget, Ryder said. Besides, it's so rare I get to meet people my own age. Well, actually, you're the first person I've actually met my age. Usually the only people who end up here are rowdy pirates and drunken sailors. Bristol hesitated. I don't know about this, she said. Come on, pretty please. Ryder pouted like a toddler, and Kitty mimicked his expression behind his back. They both looked so pathetic that it made Bristol laugh. Okay, fine, she said, but go easy on me, Kitty. This is my first time riding a dragon. The dragon lowered her neck to the ground, and Ryder and Bristol climbed aboard her saddle. Kitty stretched out her massive wings, and with a couple flaps, the dragon soared into the sky. The takeoff was much faster than Bristol was expecting, and she wrapped her hands tightly around Ryder's waist to keep from slipping off. I suppose this is as good a place to start the tour as any, Ryder said, gesturing to the building atop the volcano. This is Caretaker Village. It's where we eat and sleep when we aren't looking after the dragons. And the big hut in the middle is where this Caretaker Supreme lives. What's a Caretaker Supreme? Bristol asked. She's sort of like our queen, Ryder explained. It's her job to govern the island and keep them safe. All the caretakers report to her, and all the dragons treat her like an alpha. Trust me, you don't want to get on our bad side. Okay, good to know, Bristol said and made a mental note of it. As Kitty flew around the Dragon Keys, Ryder showed Bristol all the different islands and pointed out every dragon species they encountered. Bristol was in a constant state of amazement. She couldn't believe there was an entire ecosystem of dragons that existed in secret for thousands of years. She was so intrigued by everything she saw that Bristol almost forgot what she was doing there. In fact, Bristol was having so much fun, it kind of made her feel guilty. Most of the dragons are kept separate depending on their diets, Ryder said. The majority of them eat fish or boulder bandits, but there are a few dragons that prey on other dragons. We try to keep the hunters and the hunted on separate islands, but they do like to wander. Kitty swooped down an island, following the river of lava from the air. The lava spilled into the lake of magma like a waterfall, and Bristol could see a few caretakers working at the edge of the lake. They walked across the lake, carefully hopping from stone to stone as they checked on round objects floating in the magma. You see that lake? Ryder pointed it out. We call this the birthing suite. All the dragons lay their eggs in the magma. The hotter the magma, the faster the embryos develop. But usually it takes a few weeks for dragons to hatch. That said, I've seen it happen in a matter of hours. It's unbelievable, Bristol said. My friends are never gonna believe this. What kingdom are you from? Ryder asked. The Southern Kingdom originally, she said. No way, he said excitedly. My father was from the Southern Kingdom. He was a sailor in King Champion the 14th Royal Navy, although I never got to meet him. He and his fleet washed ashore and their ship was damaged in the hurricane. They were only in the Dragon Keys long enough to repair their ship. He sailed home before my mother even knew that she was pregnant with me. Have you ever thought about leaving the islands yourself? Bristol asked. Ryder grinned at the idea. Yeah, maybe someday, he said. I've always dreamed of traveling the world, but for now, I do think I belong here. The dragons need me, and I kind of like being where I'm needed. Does that make sense? Perfect sense, Bristol said with a sweet smile. I like being where I'm needed too. Ryder steered Kitty toward the outer islands of the Keys. Bristol noticed something very long and very big swimming in the ocean below them. What's that? She asked. Oh, that's a water dragon, Ryder said. There are dragons that live in the water? Bristol asked Anna. Ryder nodded. Want to meet one? Before Bristol could answer, Ryder steered Kitty toward the beach of the nearest island. They landed on the shore and climbed down from the saddle. Ryder faced the ocean and whistled with his fingers. A few seconds later, a massive sea serpent with sapphire scales and turquoise fins poked its head out of the water. Bristol, me, Goldfish. He's one of mine, Ryder said. Bristol's eyes went wide and she backed away from the creature. It's a pleasure to meet you, Goldfish, she said with a nervous quiver. Goldfish, would you like to show Bristol your cave of treasures? Ryder asked, speaking in the same high-pitched voice he used to speak to Kitty. Cave of treasures? Bristol asked. Goldfish likes to collect shiny objects that he finds on the ocean floor, Ryder said. It's mostly a bunch of sea glass and empty bottles, but one time he found a whole set of crown jewels. Isn't that incredible? Who knows how long those things had been down there? The water dragon gave Bristol a curious look and then turned to Ryder as if asking, can I trust her? Don't worry, she isn't going to steal anything from you, he said. Goldfish glared at Bristol. Fine, but keep your hands where I could see them, he seemed to say. The water dragon rolled out from the water and stretched his long body on the sand. The creature was shaped like a giant snake and didn't have any arms or legs. Ryder mounted Goldfish's back and then helped Bristol sit beside him. Once they were situated, the water dragon slithered back into the water and then swam across the ocean's surface. When they were about a mile from shore, Goldfish turned to Ryder and gave him a nod to say, it's time. Hold your breath, Ryder told Bristol. I mean, like, really hold your breath. Bristol took his advice and filled her lungs with as much air as possible. The water dragon dived into the water and snaked deeper and deeper into the ocean. Bristol had to grip Goldfish's fins with all her strength to keep from slipping off his back. The salty water stung her eyes and the pressure in her ears got worse and worse the farther down they dived. And just when she didn't think she could hold her breath any longer, Bristol felt air rush past her skin. She opened her eyes and discovered the water dragon had surfaced in a large underwater cave. There were so many glittering objects that at first Bristol thought they had somehow traveled into space. As her vision improved, she realized the cave was filled with thousands and thousands of valuables. So Goldfish is Ariel. Good to know. Glad we're all on the same page here. Goldfish had neatly organized his treasures into piles of old coins, jewelry, silverware, empty bottles, bottles with messages, sea glass arranged by color. There was also a massive stack of miscellaneous junk like telescopes, oars, clocks, sails, and pieces from sunken ships. Oh my goodness, Bristol gasped. Look at all this stuff. Yeah, it's impressive, right? Ryder said. The water dragon bobbed his head proudly as if to say, it sure is. I didn't realize that dragons had hobbies, Bristol said. Yeah, they're amazing creatures, he said. It's a shame they're so misunderstood. I suppose the world always hates and fears what it doesn't understand, but if people just tried to understand them, I'm sure they'd love dragons as much as I do. Yeah, there's a lot of things the rest of the world gets wrong, Bristol said, although I've been pleasantly surprised by the progress people have made over the last few years. There have been changes I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, so maybe the world will be ready to accept dragons sooner than we think. Yeah, I hope so, he said. I couldn't imagine my life without them. They're really lucky to have you, she said. I'm luckier to have them. Ryder looked like a proud father as he spoke about them, and Bristol was touched to see how much he cared. His passion for dragons reminded her of how she felt about the fairy territory. The more time she spent with the caretaker, the more she was starting to like him, like really like him. It had been more than a year since Bristol had felt this way about anyone, and unfortunately Bristol knew she was on borrowed time and had to squash the feelings before they grew any stronger. She looked around the cave for a distraction, and luckily she found more than what she needed. Oh my God, Bristol gasped. What is it? Ryder asked. I don't believe it, she exclaimed. It's my wand. Her crystal wand was sitting on top of a wine barrel in the stacks of miscellaneous sea junk. It glimmered as Bristol approached it as if it was happy to see her. Wait a second. That's yours? Ryder asked. Yeah, I'm positive, Bristol said. I lost it in the shipwreck. That's incredible, Ryder said. Goldfish, you're a miracle worker. Bristol reached for her wand, but before she could pick it up, the water dragon suddenly dashed between them. Goldfish growled at Bristol with a dirty scowl, as if to say, that's mine. Sorry, water dragons are very greedy creatures, Ryder said. Goldfish, just because you found it doesn't mean it belongs to you. Remember what I told you? Finders keepers just makes you a thief with a motto. Now give it back to the nice lady. The water dragon let out a disgruntled sigh and turned the other way. Bristol retrieved her wand, smiling from ear to ear. I never thought I'd see this again, she said. What are the chances Goldfish would find it? Ryder said. It's kind of like magic, right? Bristol said with a nervous laugh. Magic? After Bristol was reunited with her wand, she and Ryder returned to the beach and continued their tour of the islands. Their damp clothes were dried. Yeah, the water goldfish is kind of like it's like a dolphin, right? Their damp clothes were dried while Kitty soared through the sky, and as they flew, Bristol's eyes were drawn to an island with the biggest volcano in all of the Keys. Although the island was large and lush with plant life, it looked completely empty. "Why aren't there any dragons over there?" she asked. They're afraid of that island," Ryder said. "Why?" "Because it's the one with the old temple." When they flew closer, Bristol suddenly understood why the dragons were intimidated. A massive fortress was built into the side of the island's spewing volcano. It was so ancient that the structure had practically become one with the island. It was made from dark stones that perfectly matched the scorched earth surrounding the volcano. There were thousands of steps leading to an entrance, and each one was consumed by weeds and vines. From the moment she laid eyes on it, Bristol knew that she was looking at the Temple of Knowledge, and the sight sent chills down her spine. "Do you mind if we take a closer look?" Bristol asked. Not at all," Ryder said. He gripped the reins and steered Kitty toward the island across from the Temple of Knowledge. They landed in an empty dragon nest with a perfect view of the island. Being so close to the temple made Kitty visibly uneasy. The dragon wrapped herself in her wings and trembled as she gazed across the water. "You weren't kidding," Bristol said. "Why are the dragons so afraid of that place?" "There's something inside that temple, something that terrifies them," Ryder said. "But what could be more frightening than a dragon?" Bristol asked. Ryder shrugged. Beats me," he said. "I've never been inside the temple personally, but I do know enough to stay away from it." Bristol acted naive. "Oh, really?" she asked. "Anything you can share?" A mischievous grin grew across Ryder's face. He looked around the nest to make sure they were alone. "Can I tell you a big secret?" he asked. "Please do," she said. "They call it the Temple of Knowledge," he said. "It was built thousands of years ago by a group of sorcerers, and supposedly the temple has a vault that holds the most powerful items ever created. That's why my ancestors and their dragons came to this island. The sorcerers gave them a home, hoping that the presence of the dragons would discourage people from going inside. Then they shielded the island in a magic dome to hide it from view." Bristol was mesmerized as she gazed across the water, and suddenly it made sense. The caretakers and the dragons, not the boulder bandits, were the unlikely guardians that were described to her. "How do you get inside?" she asked. "The door only opens with a special key," Ryder said, "but trust me, you don't want to go inside. Everyone who has ever gone inside doesn't come out." "And if someone did want to go inside, how would they find that key?" she said. Ryder scrunched his forehead. "Why are you so interested in the temple?" Bristol locked eyes with him and let out a long sigh. Ryder had been so kind to her, she didn't have the heart to lie to him anymore. Besides, dishonesty would only take up more time she didn't have. "Ryder, I have to make a confession," she said. "My friends and I aren't sailors, and we weren't in a shipwreck. We came to the island to find the Temple of Knowledge." "What?" he exclaimed. But why? Why?" "Because the world is in terrible danger," she said. "Cities are being destroyed by a powerful fire, a fire unlike anything the world has ever seen before, and innocent people are being framed for it. Back home, I'm known as the fairy godmother, and it's kind of like the caretaker supreme. It's my job to keep people safe. There's a powerful spell book inside that temple that could help me stop the fires. I know it's dangerous, and I know I sound crazy for even attempting it, but if you could just help us get inside, we could save a lot of lives." Ryder was shocked, and it took him a few moments to comprehend everything that Bristol had said. "So, you're a fairy?" he asked. "Yes, well, I was," she said. "My magic hasn't worked since we arrived here." "Yeah, that was part of the sorcerer's spell," Ryder said. "People can't use magic when they're inside the dome. The sorcerers didn't want anyone to have an advantage in the temple." Frustrated, Bristol closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had been counting on that advantage. The mission was getting more complicated by the minute. "I still have to try," she said. "A lot of innocent people are going to die if we don't succeed. Could you please help me?" Bristol could tell Ryder was overwhelmed by this request. No one can enter the Temple of Knowledge on their own," he said. "You have to get permission from the Caretaker Supreme. She holds the key to the temple, but she's never allowed anyone to use the key before." "Is there any way that I could speak to her?" Bristol asked. "She normally doesn't meet with strangers, but I might be able to arrange a meeting." "Really? Will she listen to you?" Ryder gulped. "I mean, I think so," he said. "She's my mother." That evening, Bristol stayed in the healing hut while Ryder went to speak with the Caretaker Supreme. Bristol paced between the hammocks as she waited for him to return. By now, the healing flames had started to shrink on the delegates' bodies, and one by one they started to wake up. Lucy yawned and lazily stretched out in her hammock, but became alarmed when she opened her eyes. "Hey, what happened to us?" she asked. "I haven't been this sore since the morning after the Tinsel Heights Music Festival." "Lucy, you're on fire!" Gobzella shouted. Thanks, but that wasn't a joke, she said. No, you're literally on fire, Butternut exclaimed. Lucy shrieked when she saw the peach-colored flames on her broken leg. It's not just her. We're all on fire, Prince Elron yelled. All the delegates screamed and hopped down from their hammocks in panic. They frantically ran around the healing hut, trying to extinguish flames. Bristol whistled as loudly as she could to get their attention. Everyone, calm down, she said. The fire isn't hurting you, it's helping you. It'll stop once all your injuries are healed. At first, the delegates didn't believe her, but once they realized the fire wasn't causing them any pain, they did relax. In fact, they discovered the flames felt rather nice. Gobzella laid back in her hammock and placed her hands behind her head. She's right, the goblin said. This feels great. It's like tickle and massage all at the same time. It's true, Jack, it's true. You know, my knees haven't felt this good since I was a dwarfling, Spanky said. Hey, Bristol, are you doing this to us? Is your magic working again? Lucy asked. No and no, Bristol said, but I can explain everything. Last thing I remember is being surrounded by mutant lizards, Butternut said. How did we escape them? Was it me? Gobzella said. Did I win? Well, we're safe now, and that's what's important, Bristol said. Nobody freak out when I tell you this, but we were actually saved by a dragon. Lucy gasped. You mean that wasn't a dream? The other delegates looked at Bristol like she was crazy, and instead of wasting time trying to convince them, Bristol walked over to the window and opened the leafy blinds. The delegates were flabbergasted to see that they'd caught sight of the volcano, the islands, and all the dragons roaming around and flying throughout the keys. No, Lucy said and shook her head. This cannot be real. Someone must have slipped us a purple-spotted clover when we weren't looking. In about 5 minutes, all of this is going to fade away, and a group of pre-team tuba players are going to be laughing at us. That's the same thing that happened to me at band camp. What you're seeing is real. I promise, Bristol said. The island holds more than the Temple of Knowledge. They're also the sanctuary for dragons. When the sorcerers created the temple, they invited the dragons to the island to keep them protecting it. They're here as the unlikely guardians that the legend warns us about. How do you know all of this? Prince Elron asked. Bristol filled the delegates in on everything that had happened while they were asleep, and she told them about Ryder's tour of the island, how the water dragon had found her wand at the bottom of the ocean, and now she was waiting to talk to the Caretaker Supreme. Yeah, apparently the key is the only way that we get inside, she said, and if she doesn't give it to us, we don't stand a chance. And you think we can convince her? Lucy said. Well, we have to, Bristol said. The front door swung open and Ryder stepped inside. Bristol was so anxious that she didn't even think about introducing him to the other. Well, she asked, what did your mother say? Ryder sighed and Bristol knew that it wasn't good. She said there's absolutely no way that she would ever give you the key, but she did agree to meet with you. He said, that was the best I could do. All right then, Bristol said, let's meet. Maybe I can change her mind. Ryder led Bristol and the delegates out of the healing hut. They walked down a long rope bridge that snaked through the caretaker village toward the building at the very top of the volcano. The entrance was guarded by 2 intimidating caretakers armed with spears made from dragon teeth. Bristol and the delegates followed Ryder through the doors and entered the throne room that hovered over the volcano like a large balcony. The throne room had a glass floor, and delegates could see directly into the pool of magma below them. Come closer, a woman's voice said. The Caretaker Supreme was seated at the far end of the room on a giant throne created from dragon ribs. She wore a horned headdress, spiked shoulder pads, and a tight white gown made from molted dragon skin. With just one glance at the Caretaker Supreme, Bristol knew why all the dragons treated her like the Alpha. Her stoic gaze radiated confidence and wisdom. She was already one of the most intimidating people that Bristol had ever met. Ryder bowed as he approached his mother, and the delegates copied him. Mother, these are the people that I was telling you about, he said. The Caretaker Supreme was only interested in Bristol. So you are the great fairy godmother, the Caretaker Supreme said. Word of your remarkable power has traveled far and wide. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Oh, thank you, ma'am, Bristol said. I wish that I could say I'd heard about you too, but you've done a really good job of keeping Dragon Keys a secret. My son tells me you've come for the Temple of Knowledge, she said. Yep, that's correct, Bristol said. We're hoping to retrieve the Book of Sorcery from the vault. And why would someone with your powers need such a thing? She asked. No, it isn't about gaining power. It's about rendering someone powerless, Bristol explained. 2 nights ago, the Eastern Kingdom was attacked by a very dangerous fire, and it's unlike anything the world has ever seen. It burns much quicker and much hotter than normal fire. More than half of Iron Hand was destroyed in a matter of minutes. Our friend Xanthos is a fairy with a specialty for fire, and he was at the scene of the attack, and now he's being blamed for it. We know he's innocent, and we know something else is causing the fires. We just can't prove it. The caretaker slowly nodded. So the devil's breath has returned, she said. Pardon? The fire you speak of is called devil's breath, the caretaker said. Thousands of years ago, devil's breath destroyed much of the ancient world. Oh, you mean it really isn't Xanthos' fault after all? Bristol asked. Unless your friend is thousands of years old, I sincerely doubt it, she said. So what happened the first time? How was the devil's breath stopped? Bristol asked. It wasn't stopped, the caretaker supreme said. The fire disappeared as quickly as it appeared. To this day, no one knows where it came from or where it went. Unfortunately, that didn't stop people from assigning blame. A group of men known as alchemists held a conference with world leaders to address the situation. They determined dragons were causing the destruction, and so they decided to exterminate the entire species in order to save the planet. If it weren't for the heroic efforts of my ancestors, dragons would be extinct. Bristol couldn't believe her ears. History really was repeating itself. And now the same thing is happening to our friend, Bristol exclaimed. We just came from that alchemy institute. The Conference of Kings determined that Xanthos was causing the fires. They insisted the only way to prevent future fires was to eliminate him. But he's just as innocent and misunderstood as the dragons were. Yes, it appears killing is the alchemist's answer for everything, the caretaker supreme said. My condolences for the loss of your friend. But we can still save him, Bristol said. If we get the Book of Sorcery and use it to strip Xanthos of his magic, the alchemist said that they would spare his life. No, I'm sorry, my dear. That's not going to happen, the caretaker supreme said. Opening the temple comes with great risk, a risk that's not worth saving one life. But we could use the Book of Sorcery to stop the devil's breath once and for all, Bristol said. And if I'm being completely honest, the fairies and the witches have been searching for it for long before the fires began. There's another reason we need it. The caretaker supreme was surprised to hear this, and she wasn't the only one. Bristol's alternative motives were news to the delegates as well. She could feel their confused gazes on the back of her head without having to look. Do tell, the caretaker supreme said. The world is being threatened by much more than just the devil's breath, Bristol went on. Last year, the Southern Kingdom was taken over by a ruthless tyrant known as the Righteous Emperor. He partnered with the powerful witch to raise an unstoppable army of the dead. The Emperor has plans to invade and conquer all the kingdoms and territories in the world, and if we don't stop him, people will be stripped of their rights, talking creatures will lose their homes, and the entire magical community is going to be hunted down. You mean the army of the dead can be defeated? Spanky asked from the side. Why didn't you mention this before? Prince Elrond asked. The alchemists would never have told me where the Temple of Knowledge was if they knew the real reason I wanted the Book of Sorcery, Bristol said. The fires may destroy all life on Earth, but the army of the dead will destroy everything that's worth living for. But with the Book of Sorcery, we can stop all of it. We just need the key. Bristol didn't know what else to say to make her case. The caretaker supreme tapped her long fingernails on the armrest of her throne while she considered this. No, the caretaker supreme said. No, the delegates all gasped together. Mother, you can't be serious, Ryder objected. The odds aren't in their favor, the caretaker supreme said. Yes, the fires might destroy the planet, and yes, the righteous emperor might destroy everything worth living for, but if the Book of Sorcery falls into the wrong hands, the world will perish. That is certain. But Mother, we can't just stand back and... The caretaker supreme raised a hand to silence her son. I've made my decision, she said. Besides, I couldn't help you even if I wanted to. As soon as I inherited the key, I made sure that it would never see the light of day again. Our ancestors led enough people to doom that way. Ma'am, can you please tell us where it is? Bristol pleaded. You are our last hope. Tomorrow morning, I will arrange a ship to transport you and your friends back to the continent, and that is all that I'm willing to offer, the caretaker supreme said. Ryder, please escort our visitors to the healing hut. They're welcome to stay there until their departure. With nothing left to do or say, Bristol and the delegates followed Ryder out of the throne room. Their heads hung low as they walked down the rope bridge through Caretaker Village. As far as they knew, the mission wasn't over. The whole world was. Is there some sort of appeal that we could file? Lucy asked. Unfortunately not, Ryder said. My mother's will is law around here. She never takes back a decision once her mind has been made up. This can't be the end, Gobzella moaned. We've got to talk some sense into her. Ryder held the door open to the healing hut while the delegates filed in. However, once they were inside, they realized that Ryder had escorted them to a completely different part of Caretaker Village. Instead of green hammocks and peach-colored flames, the new hut was filled with swords and spears and crossbows and spiked armor. Ryder, what is this place? Bristol asked. Everyone suit up, he said. You can't go into the Temple of Knowledge dressed like that. But your mother said she wouldn't help us, Lucy said. Oh, yeah, and she was serious too, he said. My mother is a very practical speaker. She chooses her words very carefully, and she never says something that she doesn't mean. When she said the key would never see the light of day again, that wasn't a metaphor. And why is your mother's frankness a good thing? Lucy asked. Because she unintentionally told us where she hid the key, Ryder said. There are only so many places where the sun doesn't shine, especially around here. Bristol's eyes grew large when she realized what Ryder was implying. The ocean, she gasped. Your mother threw the key into the ocean? Ryder smiled. And if I'm right, I might know someone who's already found it. Dun, dun, dun! Wow, wow, wow. You think Goldfish has the key, you guys? Ooh, Water Puppy has the key. Water Puppy has the key! Great chapter. Okay. I hope beyond hope that Ryder is Connor and Alex's grandfather. I really, really, really want Ryder to be their grandfather. I really want that. I don't know if it's true, but I want that so bad. I really, really want Ryder to be their grandfather. It would be very cute. I'm just out here hoping he's nice. Yeah, well, that too. He seems like he is, right? I mean, anyone who can raise animals that kindly is usually a good person, right? Yeah. All right, well, that was a fantastic chapter. That was very uplifting compared to yesterday's chapter, Trust No One. All right, Becca, it's fair. Trust no one. I will say, though, for the caretaker, I mean, she's straightforward. She's not helping, but she's not lying either. You know what I mean? She's shooting straight with them. She's giving them info. She's just like, no, I can't help you, you know? She's a straight shooter. I like the Dragon Keys. I like them. I like this place. We have been fooled before, Jack. You're right. Hang his head in shame. You're right. He does seem good. I mean, he was going behind Mom's back. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, I love him too. I'm so sad that we're more than halfway done with this book. Like, I'm heartbroken that this is the end of the series. Like, I don't want it to be. I really don't. I'm like, he has to write more, right? There has to be more. He's so young. He has to write more. He can't be done. I know he's moved on to another series, but I'm attached, and I feel like it's like a personal slight if he doesn't write more to it. I know. Yeah, the Roswell ones too, but like they're not a part of this universe, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a little different. Anyway, I will see you all later this evening. We have class tonight on Patreon. It is, I will post a link there half an hour or something before, so you can all go in, make sure you have all your ingredients ready to go. I posted the ingredient list a couple of days ago with all the instructions of what to prepare. There are no exchanges in this one, so it's not like other slimes where you can like replace one glue with another. It has to be exactly the ones mentioned. I want to read them all for myself since I missed so much because of work. Yeah, Brittany, or if you want, what a lot of people do is they listen to the replays of book club during work, so you can listen to it like an audiobook because they're all up to date as of this morning, except for this one. They're all up on YouTube, so you can do that as well. My friend's little one may join us tonight. That's so cute. We actually have a lot of kids coming tonight. Lori's granddaughter's coming tonight. I think a bunch of people are bringing their kids tonight, so it'll be fun. Thick and Glossy's not easy, but it's also not as hard as Putty, which was last month, so, you know, at least there's that. We listen to podcasts at work. Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yes, rereads are always welcomed. But anyway, that is the whole kit and caboodle. So I will see you all in a couple hours, and have a great day till then. Lots of orders are going to go out today, so look out for your tracking numbers.